All right, episode 122 of the Sort of Sports podcast. Joining you once again, it's me, Ryan Klinger. Hopefully you tuned in yesterday. If you didn't, that's genuinely no big deal. We did college football playoff predictions yesterday. Today we're doing the NFL pod. Tomorrow I got a special surprise for everybody. And Thursday we're going to be breaking down the Superman trailer. Cannot wait for that. I am so excited. But anyways, let's get into today. Let's start off with that big game on Sunday. We haven't actually talked 2 weeks. I took last week off. Honestly, though, we're starting to get to the point. I wrote this down in my notes. We kind of know these teams, right? Like, we know what to expect. We know the Giants aren't good. We know the Patriots aren't good. We know I like Drake May. Like, we know these teams. We know what to expect. So, like, I just don't have as many talking points as I usually would. At this point, we're kind of in the holding pattern until the playoffs. I mean, we have, 4 weeks? Yeah, 16, 17, 3 weeks. We got 3 weeks left. Then we're in playoff mode. This is not me saying I'm not excited, because I know as soon as the NFL season's over, I'm going to be missing it. But I do think I just have a little bit less to talk about. These were pretty much consistently about an hour long, and I think this episode might only go like 30-ish minutes, just due to the fact that we kind of know what to expect here, right? We know these teams, we know the players, we know the game. Time to play the game. Boom, time to play the game. There we go for all the Triple H fans out there. Let's talk about that Bills-Lions game. I think that kind of was a big moment for Josh Allen. A rare CBS national broadcast. CBS doesn't normally do that. CBS usually has one game and that's it, and it's whatever's most local for you. CBS doesn't usually say, hey, you already had your local game. We're going to compete with America's Game of the Week on Fox with a great game. And they did, and I'm willing to bet they got better viewership than Fox did. Nothing against Eagles-Steelers. I was flipping between the two, but Bills-Lions was more interesting before the game started, and it was more interesting during the game. So it lived up to the hype. It was great. But the Bills kind of came out the gate and showed everybody that they might be the best team in the league. I mean, it looked like the Lions were the best team in the NFL, and the Chiefs are probably second, and then you'd have probably the Bills in that range too, and then probably the Eagles, maybe Ravens around there, right? Top five-ish. And the Bills are kind of like, yeah, not only do we have the MVP, we're better than the Lions. We're just going to come out and beat you. Now, granted, if these two teams played again, it's not like I think the Bills win it every time. They played 10 times, it might go 5-5. But the Bills look damn good when they played them, and I think it just helped Josh Allen's MVP case. I do think he's going to win this year. Lamar played great. He had 5 passing touchdowns. He played excellently. But we all know that Josh Allen playing well against a Lions team that everybody thinks is good and winning 48-42 in a game that didn't feel as close as it ended, just want to state, is more impressive than Lamar tearing up the Giants 35-14. Like, it just is. You know, Josh Allen's hanging 48 points on a Lions, and Ravens are hanging 35 on the Giants. Just more impressive from Josh Allen. I think he's going to end up being the MVP, and I think he very much deserves it. We're starting to get to that point with him where when you talk about him winning MVP, you know, like my father goes, he hasn't won one yet? Because he has been a top guy since the 2020 season. He's been a top dog. So we've had 5 seasons, 4 years of Josh Allen being one of those guys, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And the fact that Mahomes has 2 and Lamar has 2 and he has none, I think is starting to rub people the wrong way. And this, to me, feels like the year for him. And I said at the beginning of the year, if he could somehow get this Bills team to the playoffs, he'd be the MVP. Well, he not only has them going to the playoffs, I think they might win the whole shebang. So the fact that they're maybe the top pick for the Super Bowl at the moment is crazy. I do think probably the people's top picks would be Bills, Chiefs, and Lions, of course. We're going to talk about the Eagles. I'm going to title this episode, How Good Are the Eagles, really? Because you guys know I've been hating on them all year, but we're not going there yet. Panthers looked the worst they have in a while. This was a tough loss as a Panthers fan. We played quite poor, and we lost to a team that I think we really should have beat. And I know Bryce threw an interception, like threw 2, but one of them really was it was a weird tip. It wasn't really on him. He fumbled also. Not a great Bryce game. I still have 100% confidence in him and this team. The defense is the main thing. We now know for sure that defense is what we need to upgrade on in the draft. There were a lot of Panthers fans pushing for a wide receiver in the draft. My thought process was, I think Bryce can elevate our talent, blah, blah, blah. We can always sign somebody. We need to draft the defense. And I think I was heavily justified in that last game. I still have the utmost faith in Bryce, and I think his team's going to improve. But that was a tough one. I was like, I thought we were over games like this. Like, I thought we could smack a team like the Cowboys. And so maybe I was getting a little too ahead of myself. So I guess I don't have a lot to talk about with Panthers because I was like kind of like, ugh. Baker beat the Chargers. The Bucs are currently on pace to win the division. And it's very impressive work from Baker Mayfield and that Buccaneers team, the way that they kind of floundered for a little bit there, and then as soon as Mike Evans came back, he's like, no, I'm locked in. We don't need Godwin. I just need Mike Evans. We're good. Hall of Fame receiver. Probably going to go down as maybe the best receiver for like this you think about the best receivers of his generation, it's like him, Antonio Brown, like that mid 2010s, early 2010s draft range. Him, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, like the top ones, but the longevity of Mike Evans with the fact he has a Super Bowl win, I think might put him over the top. He's going to have that insane streak of all those 1,000-yard seasons. He's probably going to go down as one of the greatest wide receivers to ever do it. He's got a Super Bowl ring. Like, that's a big piece. Love Julio Jones. Does not have a Super Bowl ring. I mean, a very famous Super Bowl loss. And obviously he wasn't playing defense in the 28-3, but, But yeah, Baker beating the Chargers, I think, was a big statement win for the Bucs. Kind of stamps them as the team in the NFC South. Been a really weird Falcons season. Really weird. But it also kind of points out with the Chargers that this team's good, but they're winning one playoff game max. They're not as good as I thought they were going to be, which I think is funny because a lot of people are like, wow, the Chargers have overperformed. Chargers are playing really well. And in my mind, I'm like, I thought this team would maybe be like a fringe AFC championship contender. I mean, I'd just be happy for them to win a wild card game at this point. Herbert's been playing great, though. They really need upgrades at receiver. They really do. McConkey's classic, though. My mom already said she's going to try to get him in fantasy next year. I mean, he's been a bright spot for them. But Quentin Johnston, goodness. I thought, last year was bad. Maybe Harbaugh could somehow fix it. No, he's just bad. Like, he genuinely is just not good. So, it's kind of that. Bo Nix had a classic Bo Nix game in my mind. He threw 3 touchdowns and 3 picks. He actually had a lot less interceptions than I thought he did this year when I looked into it. We looked back a couple weeks back on him versus Jaden Daniels stats-wise. Broncos still won last week. They beat the Colts 31-13. They're playing the Chargers this week on Thursday Night Football. I'm going to pick the Chargers when we do primetime picks. I think Nixie isn't going to win Rookie of the Year. I do think it's going to be Jaden Daniels. I think Daniels just had a bit of a flashier run. The media loved him. The media also wants to have an NFC guy because they tried to make it Hurts, and it's just not. It's just not Hurts. Hurts isn't the guy they're going to push in the NFC. When your signature move is your offensive line, which I like the tush push. I'm not a hater. I'm just stating his signature move is being pushed forward by his offensive line. And then you look at the other quarterbacks here on the NFC. I love Jared Goff, but he's not going to be the face of that conference. He's going to be like the fun guy that everybody likes, and it's like, it'd be great if Jared Goff won MVP, but him finishing just top 3 in MVP voting would be awesome. I don't expect him to win it. Just him being in the conversation is fun. But they're looking for that like Aaron Rodgers guy that they can kind of hang the conference on. Maybe it's Bryce Young. I would love that. But it might be Jaden Daniels. And I know you're like, okay, well, it should be Rookie of the Year, should be who most deserves it. It shouldn't just be narrative-based. They shouldn't just be giving to Jaden because he's NFC, blah, blah, blah. I understand that, but I also think Jaden deserves it the most too. So then there's that. I think Jaden Daniels will win Rookie of the Year. I think he deserves it. The fact that him and Nix both might make the playoffs, so is huge. But granted, we all know the primetime games really shift the narrative. So if the Chargers lose to the Broncos Thursday night, that might switch things up. Nixie beats a Chargers team that's probably going to be in the playoffs. in prime time, nationally broadcast, that could be huge. So keep an eye on that Thursday night because that could shift things up. How good are the Packers? We've talked about a couple times at the beginning. Well, I always do my Super Bowl pick right after the Super Bowl, just like a blind pick for the next season before everything's happened. And I took Texans-Packers. And we did our predictions at the beginning of the year. I kept it. I was like, honestly, I think these are really good teams. Let's go for it. And who would have thought the Texans was the wilder take out of those two? Because I honestly think this Packers team is the second or... I don't think it's a hot take to say they're the second or third best team in the NFC. Sorry about that. I had a cough. I don't think it's really a hot take to say they're better than the Vikings. I think everybody's kind of in the same place with the Vikings where it's like, we're going to look back and go, well, wasn't that weird that the Vikings won? I don't know, they might end with like 14 wins with Sam Darnold. That's crazy. It's really weird that happened. They lost in the divisional. Like maybe they win a playoff game. They're not going to win the Super Bowl. They're not going to win the NFC. They're not. I think J.J. McCarthy is going to be really great for them next year once they move him on in. I think he will probably be a franchise guy there. I really have a lot of faith in J.J. McCarthy in that system. And the Vikings have been a fun success story. But I don't think they're one of the three best teams in the NFC. You look at the AFC, I think most people would say the three best teams are the Chiefs, Ravens, and Bills in some order. And then for the NFC, they would say the Eagles, Lions, Packers. I think most people are keeping out the Vikings. Maybe not Vikings fans. But for the most part, I feel like that's how it feels. For the Packers, though, they are interesting. And I do see a world where if they play the Eagles in the divisional, that's spicy. That's interesting. If somehow the seeding works out. If the Lions have to play the Packers before the NFC Championship, woo, that's a rough one. It really is. That's a tough spot to be in. So it's going to be interesting to see how the NFC playoffs shape up. I also think the Commanders could shock somebody. I wasn't as high on them a couple weeks back, but a part of me is like, maybe they could get it done and win a playoff game. 9-5. You look at their schedule. They got Eagles, Falcons, Cowboys, so realistically only one more loss remaining probably. I think they're pretty much locked to be in the playoffs as long as they win. Yeah, if they can lose one more and still make it, they'd be fine. Interesting. There's so many 7-8 loss teams in the NFC. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that have 7 or 8 losses in the NFC. If you add in teams of 6 losses, you now have 7 teams. Just, almost half the conference has 6, 7, 8 wins, which is just really weird. The AFC is not like that. The AFC, teams that have 6, 7, or 8 losses, there's only 2 of them, and it's just 2 teams of 8 losses, the Bengals and the Dolphins. So it's just really weird. Like, the AFC is a lot more top-heavy. Like, there's really good teams, and there's really bad teams. Whereas in the NFC, everybody's, like, kind of hanging around. Like, yeah, you still have some really bad teams. The Giants are 2-12. The Bears are 4-10. This Bears 8-game losing streak has been brutal. I remember back when people were like, oh, that NFC North, there's not a bad team there. And now people are talking about how terrible the Bears are. And Jason Kelce said on TV, the Bears need to prove that they belong in the NFL. Like, it's a mess over there, the Bears. I was right about the Rams. I kind of got high on them a little too early. I was about a month early to the party. But right now they sit at 8-6, tied with the Seahawks at the top of their division. And if you said for me, pick a team out of the NFC West to win it, I'm taking the Rams. They're on a 3-game win streak. Puka's been playing elite for them. Cooper did not play well at all. I think that hurt a lot of fantasy managers, me included. So he went 0 for 3 on targets last game. But, it's the Rams. I have full faith they're going to win the division. I don't think they'll win a playoff game, but winning the division seems very likely in my mind. A really fun matchup would be if we somehow could get Eagles-Rams. That would be fun. But the Eagles setups are the most interesting team in the NFC for me because I could see them losing in the wild card. But it has to be the Rams. Well, it can't be Rams because if they win the division. Yeah, so Honestly, the Commanders playing the Eagles or the Rams is really fun as a wild card game. I think they would probably put that as the Sunday night or Monday night game because that's fun. Because the Commanders are going to be either the 6 or 7 seed. If they're the 6th seed, they might play the Rams. Yeah, that'd be the way that lines up. Because the Vikings are pretty much guaranteed to play the Bucs, because I'm willing to bet the Bucs will be the lowest seeded division winner. And whoever's the third playoff, like whoever's the third wild card team, whether it's the Seahawks, the Cardinals, the Falcons, they play the Eagles. Because the Eagles are most likely going to be the top. I think they're almost guaranteed to be the top at this point. Yeah, they are. It's either they're the number 1 seed or the 2 seed. If the Lions screw up. Because now they're both at 12-2. The Lions 12-2 just feels so much better than the Eagles. All right, let's do it. I titled the episode after them. I don't know what it is about this Eagles team. I think they're good, but I don't think they're great. I honestly think their peak is a divisional loss. I don't think they're going to the NFC Championship. I just don't. I don't see it. Honestly, a part of me thinks they're going to lose the Commanders Sunday. I know you're like, that's crazy. They beat the Commanders in November. Yeah, but it was 26-18. That's a doable game. They're in all these games that are just like, they're always in close games. I don't understand. So let's go through. They've been on this big win streak. Let's go through them. Last week, Steelers 27-13. I will give them credit. They pulled away. Thought the Steelers were going to do the classic Steelers, lose the first half, win the second half. Didn't happen. Eagles pulled away. They almost lost to the Panthers last week. They're a Xavier Legette catch away from losing the Panthers. Week before that, they almost lost the Ravens 24-19. Week before that, they did beat the Rams 37-20. That was a big win. Commanders 26-18. Cowboys, they stomped, but of course they did. Jaguars, one of the worst teams in the NFL, 28-23. Bengals, 37-17. Giants, 28-3, they win. Browns, they win by 4 points, 20-16. What? They got smacked by the Buccaneers, 33-16. They beat the Saints by a field goal, 15-12, early on in the year. They lost to the Falcons, 22-21, early on in the year, second week of the season. We already went this far back. Might as well read the first game of the season. They beat the Packers in Brazil, 34-29, in one of the weirdest NFL games I've ever watched. Now, the thing is, they match up really well against the Commanders. Strong defense, strong running game against a team that just wants to throw the ball a lot and not have to play tough defense on you. So that's kind of the biggest problem for the Commies, is that they play each other twice a year in the same division. And like the Eagles are basically programmed to smack the Commanders at what they're bad at. That's really the big piece. I think the Eagles exist in a weird place. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team, but they're obviously a good enough team to be in the playoffs. And they're better than most teams in the playoffs. They're just not better than the Super Bowl contenders. Which, if you said, Ryan, who are the Super Bowl contenders then? I'd go Lions, Chiefs, Bills, Packers. That's it. Why the Texans fall out? I don't see it at the moment. What about the Ravens, Ryan? If they were in the NFC, maybe I would, right? But in the AFC, I just don't see them getting past the Chiefs or the Bills. Especially they line up in a scenario where they have to play one before the other. Oh, hell no. Hell no. I love you, Lamar. It's not happening. Let's do marquee matchups for this week. Man, I told you this is going to be a quick one. It is a very quick one. Because I don't have any ramblings, reels, and writing, because that would all be Superman trailer. And the thing that's a surprise tomorrow is non-sports related. I better warn you. If you're somebody who listens to this and only likes the sports side, you're not going to be interested in tomorrow. Because tomorrow is not sports related at all. It's going to be very similar to the Ben Affleck episode, which I think I titled this episode contains zero sports. It's very similar to the Ben Affleck episode. It's heavily inspired by that episode. So just warning you. But marquee matchups, I only really have two, and to be honest, there's really only one, because the NFL's doing these Saturday games. I know why they do them, but I kind of think with the expanded college football playoff, they shouldn't be doing this. I think people are going to watch these playoff games for college football, and I think it's going to hurt the NFL's rate. I get the NFL's king. They're still going to make money. But like Texans-Chiefs would be an elite 4 o'clock game on Sunday. It would. But we're not doing it because they're scheduled for Saturday at 1. It's like, why? I get it. It's like the NFL Christmas thing, but like okay. Then we get Steelers-Ravens Saturday at 4:30. Like, these are both really good games. Either one of these games could be a Sunday Night Football this week, but instead, on Sunday Night Football, we're getting Buccaneers-Cowboys. And I love Baker Mayfield. But, come on, guys. You know, I just don't understand. Next week, we'll do the Christmas Day picks and stuff, though. It'll be fun. For marquee matchups this week, we got Eagles versus Commies round 2. This one will be fun in Washington. See if they can strike back. It was a close game last time. See if the Commies get the win. 4 p.m., I went for Seahawks-Vikings. Seahawks trying to stay in the mix for winning their division. Vikings continuing to try to trample teams. I think the Vikings are on a bit of a win streak, too. Yes, 7 games. Vikings' last loss was to the Lions, October 20th. No, sorry. That was their first loss. Oh, yeah, they took back-to-back losses. They lost 4 days later against the Rams. I remember that. Yep, I remember that now. Man, that's a brutal schedule for the Vikings at the end of the year. Seahawks this week, Packers next week, Lions week after that. Now, it's all Sunday games. They don't have a weird schedule. But that's tough. Like, if you're trying to stay... They're guaranteed to be in the playoffs, though. They could lose the next 3 games unless the Commanders go undefeated. The Vikings are going to be the 5 seed. So I guess that's kind of a nice piece for them. You're basically guaranteed the 5 seed. It's pretty awesome. So I guess it's a marquee matchup. I'm not going to do a third one just because I'm not going to lie to you guys. There's not a lot of good ones this week because 2 games would be excellent. Ravens, Steelers, and Texans, Chiefs are this weekend. I will say, if the Texans really come out and blast the Chiefs and beat them, we're going to have some interesting conversations on this podcast next week. Maybe I will have newfound faith in the Houston Texans. But unless that happens, Primetime picks, Thursday Night Football, Chargers, Broncos. I already said I'm taking the Chargers here. Sunday Night Football, Bucks, Cowboys. Clearly going with the Bucks. Monday Night Football, Packers, Saints. I was just talking about the Packers, taking them to win. Monday Night Football, doubleheader. Hate the Monday night doubleheaders. And both games were bad. Who wanted to watch Raiders-Falcons? Was there anyone on the planet Earth that wanted to watch that game? Anyone at all? My dad went to bed like halfway through it. He was like, it's terrible. Yeah, it is. Goodness. All right. That's it from me. Thanks for checking in. I will see you all tomorrow, as long as you're intrigued. All right. See you all in the next one.